It was kind of weird in the beginning. My grandma would just start forgetting little things. I lived about 20 minutes from my grandma, so we were around my grandma a lot, and we were very close to my grandma. It started to get a little more obvious when my older sister had her first child, and she was very close with my oldest sister. My sister had her baby, and right after she had her first child, she couldn't remember my sister's son's name for very long. I remember my grandparents being over at my house, and she's like, "No, what did Amanda name her baby?" And we'd say, "Oh, Jonah." "Oh, that's right." And then about 10 minutes later, "Now, what did Amanda name the baby?" And we'd say, "Jonah." Oh yeah. And you could tell she was disturbed by it because she knew she was starting to forget things, and she knew she was, and so it bothered her, so we tried not to make a big deal out of it, but that's when we started really noticing that something wasn't quite right, because she saw my sister enough, and especially her son, that something was going on.
Mama, I think you. Yeah. That's it.
The following year, my grandfather passed away. My mom would frequently go up to my grandmother's house and check on her, and there was a package that came in the mail to test for Alzheimer's disease. My grandmother and my grandfather apparently had a discussion about it prior to him passing away, that, hey, let's just see if this is what this is, and they both agreed. Well, my grandmother completely had forgotten that conversation, and when the package showed up, she kind of freaked out because she thought someone was on to her, like someone was realizing that she was forgetting something, and she kind of panicked and freaked out. And luckily my mom knew that my grandfather had sent away for this package and explained to her all of this, and so she had no recollection at all of their conversation on being tested for Alzheimer's. And sure enough, that's when her diagnosis came across, that she had Alzheimer's. Over the next few years, it developed slowly. It just more and more things she would forget, and she would be very aware that she was forgetting. At that time, I had moved away out to here, and so when I talked to her on the phone, I'd ask her about like certain cousins and how people were doing, and more she was forgetting even some of her grandchildren.
1, 2, 3.
That's right.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah? What's this?
Moo.
What's a moo? A cow? My my cousins that didn't live as close, I could tell she was forgetting or not knowing what they were up to anymore, where she used to be so sharp and tell us what everyone was up to and what was going on. And then it got to where my mom was up there almost every day just making sure that she'd remember to eat, because she'd just forget to eat. She wouldn't be taking her pills. It got to where she needed just somebody there watching her all the time.
Oh! Get ready! Get it up there! Okay.
Eventually, my aunt came and took her out of state, which was really hard for us because we had always grown up with my grandmother right there. She lived with my aunt for a time because my aunt was home all the time and could take care of her. She was kind of stuck at home all the time with my aunt. Then eventually they ended up putting her in a home the last year that she was alive. And my mom went out to check out the home, and it was a really nice facility, and it was in Chicago. It was nice, but it also, when the time came, had a dementia ward. And luckily hers never hit dementia, which we were all really grateful for. She ended up living in a home with some other ladies, and they decided to do that just so she had some other ladies her age that she could socialize and relate with.
Oh, you want to get him? Okay, here. Tickle him! Tickle him! Tickle him! Tickle him!
My grandma started becoming less of my grandma. She wasn't as laughing and as interactive as she used to be. Like, her personality wasn't in there anymore. While she was in there, my son was born. Every time I talked to her, she'd never bring him up because I knew she never remembered that he had actually been born. So that was a hard thing because you want to share that with your grandmother, but we weren't able to do that. She passed away on Christmas Day. That was a hard one for her. She had went to my aunt's for Christmas dinner and then went home, and the care facility. Took the ladies and the men on a bus to go see a tour of the city lights for Christmas, and then she went home and she passed away in her sleep. So I found out the next day after Christmas that she had passed away. Before she died, my mother was visiting her and they went out shopping, and I love Willow Tree. And her and my mom picked this out, and it's called Generations. So it's a grandmother, a mom, and a daughter. And they're all sitting together under a blanket. And I received this after she died. So it made it even more special to get it. And underneath is where my mom put her name and she put my name and my grandma signed it. And that was really special to me. Her signature was very wobbly because her Alzheimer's had set in so much. But it was something that was so special to have that signed from my grandma and receive it after she had passed away. So.
Little monkeys jumping on the bed. One fell off and Mom called the doctor. The doctor said, "That's right, good job." Okay.
It was really hard. It was really hard because I was at work that day and it was an extremely busy day, and I remember getting the phone call and it was just like, just come home. And hearing that she had passed away, it was really hard. It's still hard, but I was also really grateful she passed away before it had gone to full-blown dementia, because it was already so hard to see her not be fully the grandma that we knew she was. But to have her go into full dementia was something that I think would be something, because I've heard so much about dementia when they're not completely not themselves, or their aggressions in there, and luckily we never saw that aggression and that side of things, so I was always really grateful for that. But she passed away just peacefully in her sleep.
Yeah, and he says, "Put those monkeys back in bed, huh?"